Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In the Bad Batch Season 1, there was a major incident on Braca that involved an explosion which really melted the side of Crosshair's head. And that's why we see his face and head being totally scarred, and now of course he has a very shaved head. And mind you, I feel like this video will be interesting for both people who haven't really seen much of the Bad Batch and maybe wondering more about Crosshair, and those who have been keeping up with the show and the watch parties with me. Now, as for the question regarding is Crosshair acting on the inhibitor chip or does he not have it anymore? And the answer to that is that he does not have it anymore. Jennifer Corbett, the head writer and executive producer of Season 1, said, "I think we can say that he had his chip removed." And then Brad Rao, the supervising director and executive producer, said, "Yeah, have you seen the side of that guy's head?" laughing as he said this. Jennifer then went to say the eagle-eyed fan will rewatch this season and notice a shift in his character, and when that is, they'll probably have seen it all along. So when we were watching the first season of the Bad Batch, a lot of us were speculating live that he probably lost his inhibitor chip sometime on Braca, and when he got that explosion to the face, no thanks to his brothers, it really messed up his personality. Now, in the very beginning of the season, we did see that Crosshair was acting under the inhibitor chip when he was saying good soldiers follow orders. He was, just typically brainwashed like all soldiers during Order 66. But as the show progressed, he started to change, and I believe this really happened once he, of course, got that explosion to his face. So that brings us to Season 2. At this point, he is still acting on free will. Crosshair truly does not have the same values as his brothers. And this makes him an extremely dangerous man because it really eliminates any chance of his redemption in the sense that, oh yeah, we could just remove the chip like we did with Rex and he'll be okay again. But another thing that the Bad Batch really makes us curious about and raises a lot of questions and new theories is that whether you have the chip or not, like Hauser, for example, who has the chip, still acts against the Empire, still acts against Order 66, which to me is very confusing because it's almost like, well, what's the point of having the chip or not having the chip at this point? It's kind of just free will almost. But then there's also the argument, what if different clones have different abilities to abstain from brainwashing? What if some of the inhibitor chips don't work as well as other ones? Does perhaps severe head trauma really allow for the inhibitor chip to deactivate or be faulty? Or is it on a person-to-person basis? My theory on this is it's kind of all of them. I think it really depends on the person and their convictions, but then again, at the end of the day, we saw Rex and he was able to hold off a little bit from Order 66 to give Ahsoka a couple seconds more. And we know his love for Ahsoka was immense. Yet still he succumbed to Order 66 and the inhibitor chip's brainwashing and control. So this raises the question, what will be Crosshair's fate? Now that the inhibitor chip isn't in there and we know that he's acting on free will he turn just like Hauser did and eventually become disillusioned with the Empire and Order 66? Or will he continue down this dark path for either his true beliefs, that his brothers are crazy and he doesn't agree with anything that they're doing or saying, seeing them as treasonous brothers, or is he doing this out of spite, out of maybe a cry for attention? If we do remember from the Clone Wars, he was always having this sort of elitist mentality, and I don't think he liked following orders from Hunter. I think he felt that he was just as valuable, if not more, than any of his brothers, and I think this led to his reasoning for leaving his brothers and joining the Empire, and essentially betraying them. Now, I think by the end of the show, we're probably going to get him sacrificing himself, and I really do see it like this. He's going to be redeemed. He's going to see that there will be a bigger evil that will try to kill one of his brothers, and in the end, he will realize that he has been wrong this whole time. His values have been in the wrong place, and he knows the Empire are just a bunch of scumbags, like Rampart, for example. He's tired of taking orders from them and that guy, and realizes now that his actions have led to his brothers potentially dying, maybe even Omega, who he possibly has a small, soft spot for after their very brief moments together in Season 1, and he turns over a new leaf, and in that split second realizes that he must sacrifice himself. But I think the more interesting thing for them to do for this show, and for his character to go on, because he is a very interesting and complex character, and if we learned anything from Star Wars is that they like to turn the bad guys into good guys, and the good guys into bad guys, and then switch them back eventually somewhere down the road, because that makes for great character arcs. So what I really think is going to happen at the end of this season, or perhaps maybe even Season 3 if we get one, which I think we will, is that there will be some sort of a sacrificial moment. And in this moment, Crosshair will be saved by one of his brothers, who will in turn sacrifice their life for him. And he will then see that his ways have been so wrong, and even though he has been betraying them this whole time and trying to kill them this whole time, making their lives living hell, out of their love for him, one of them still sacrificed their entire life for his survival because they believe in him. And I think that is kind of the mantra to Star Wars. It's kind of like the end goal, really. You know, if you look at Darth Vader and Luke was willing to sacrifice himself for the love of his father, and he knew that his father still had good in him, and if he wasn't going to see that, then Luke was like, well, I don't want to live anymore, and I don't care if my friends live anymore, because I know there's good in my dad, and I need for him to come out and save me, or else I'm not going to fight anymore, because life's just not worth living. And so in doing that, Luke, of course, was the catalyst for Anakin to fulfill the prophecy of the Chosen One. However, at the end of the day, it was Anakin who fulfilled that prophecy. He is still the Chosen One and was always the Chosen One, even when he was Darth Vader, quoted from the words of George Lucas himself. The same goes for some of these other characters. The Bad Batch characters were approved by George when Dave Filoni pitched it to him. So I believe that we will get some sort of a similar ending with one of the characters, and Crosshair will eventually turn a new leaf back into a good guy, and then we can get the continuation of the Bad Batch, but this time with Crosshair and maybe just one less of the brothers. Now, who could that be? Well, they don't seem to be putting too much time into Echo. They don't give him all that many lines and screen time, so I'm thinking that they might just kill Echo off. But then again, when I think about that, that's not really that impactful to Crosshair because it's not really one of his brothers, so to speak. It's not like Tech or Hunter or Wrecker. So I think if we're really going to have to get a turn for Crosshair, it's going to have to be one of his actual mutant brothers. And then I could see the continuation of the Bad Batch being with him. And I think that would be a pretty cool story. It'd be pretty fun. And then, you know, his arc would mean a lot. So would the arc of his sacrificial brother. It could be Tech. It could be Wrecker. I mean, Wrecker's a fan favorite. It would really hurt if he went away or maybe even got really injured for like a whole season. We don't know where he is. Or maybe even got captured. He doesn't have to die. George did say when you kill off a lot of main characters that you're just alienating your audience. So I don't think that Wrecker is as much of a main character as Crosshair. I mean, if you think of it, Crosshair gets his own sort of episodes, really. Whenever we get the Bad Batch episodes, we're thinking, okay, when are we going to get a Crosshair only episode, which covers him and the Empire? So I do think Crosshair is probably just as focused as Hunter is, with Wrecker, Echo, and Tech being supporting characters, so to speak, part of the crew, and then of course it all landing on Omega at the end of the day. But when it comes to highlighting the characters, I think Crosshair really needs to continue on in the show. I just don't think that he'll get the message that his ways are whack until one of his brothers ends up ending themselves for him because they believe in him and think that he's worth it. So who do you think is going to end up sacrificing themselves for Crosshair? Hunter, Wrecker, could it be Omega perhaps? Tech, Echo, or do you think Cody might even do it? Or do you think Crosshair will never turn back to the light side and be a good guy again? Do you think he'll continuously end up being in the Empire and on the side of the bad guys? Which of course is from a certain point of view. Anyways, thanks for watching this video today. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your theories as well. Leave a like on this video on your way out and check me out on Spotify and Instagram at Star Wars Theory. Until then, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, remember, the Force will be with you always.